Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. It's George Almaster, and you're listening to another episode of the Well Off Podcast, where today I sat down with Susan White-Livermore. For those that don't know, she is the millionaire mom, in quotes. She's a mom of three, real estate investor that's been doing this for a very long time. She's also a coach, and on this episode, we talked a lot about mindset. Through her coaching and her experiences dealing with a lot of different investors, she noticed that mindset is the biggest thing that can hold you back from achieving your goals in real estate investing and in general. So we dove deep on that topic. And I know that if you guys are interested, if you're kind of newer to real estate investing or you've hit a roadblock, then she's going to help you identify what you could do to tweak your mindset, like hiring a coach, for example, or certain things that you can do just to get past where you're at and grow, changing some of the people that you're hanging out with, that type of thing. So I know you guys are going to find good value in this episode. Susan has a lot of knowledge. She's been investing for a long time, and I hope you will enjoy and share this with your friends and family. Make sure that you let somebody know about this, somebody who can benefit, somebody who might be stuck in a certain place right now with their real estate investments. So enjoy the episode, and if you want to connect with me, I would love to discuss certain opportunities that I have in the Niagara region. We've got a couple of opportunities in Welland and Catharines, and we also have a few in Hamilton. So if you want to discuss what we've got available, go to welloff.ca, book a call, let's chat. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm here with Susan White-Livermore. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard her on other podcasts. She's been around. She's been investing for a long time. You drove out all the way from Barrie. I appreciate you coming by today, and it's nice meeting you. So I like to start off by asking you a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and maybe one or two things you remember.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I've been asked that before. Childhood, average family. Mom stayed at home, didn't work at all, and dad worked. So, didn't have everything I wanted. Basically worked for what I achieved. And in the teenage years, I worked multiple jobs. I was, childhood memories, some of the favorite things were building. I lived in Port Elgin when I was really young, and my dad we lived on a hill, and there was no fences through the backyards. And my dad in the winter would build this ice slide that would go through everybody's backyard, and those are the memories that I remember.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was
fun. All the kids would just get together and go down the hill?
Yeah. And the parents would sit out, have a drink, and watch the kids go down the slide. It was free other than sweat equity, so it's fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I know your story, you've probably shared it a million times, but your corporate background, and then like so many people deciding you want to kind of start building something for yourself. So do you want to just briefly touch on that, how you got into real estate investing, and then we'll move on to the juicy topic that you want to talk about?
Okay, so real estate investing for me started, actually, I was inspired by my younger brother, who's about 6 years younger than me. And in second year university, he decided that he was going to buy a property. And he had no money, no credit. He was about $20,000 in debt. I'm thinking to myself, okay, kid, how the heck are you going to make this work? But you could hear it in his voice. There was conviction that he was going to just make this happen, and there was no not happening involved. So he went out and found an investor. We didn't know what it was at the time, and just somebody to buy the property, put the money in. He would do all the work, and he found that person, found the property. I mean, they jumped through a lot of red hoops, but they bought the property. He filled it. They owned it for 5 years. He had some hiccups along the way, but I watched from afar and thought, holy, if this 21-year-old can do it, I really have zero excuse, because I've got a full-time job. I'm making lots of money. I have no excuse not to be able to. So after 5 years, he had moved home, got his degree, and he decided it was too far away, sold that property, and together they made $100,000. So in addition to living for free, he comes out with the $50,000 profit. So I'm impressed. Shortly after selling that property, he goes and buys a brand new property behind Georgian College and calls me up and said, bought another property. And I had the fear of being left behind. So The following weekend, I was living in Milton at the time. The following weekend, I went and picked out my house and did the exact same thing. I mean, I did no research, no nothing. It was fly by the seat of your pants. Didn't know anything about bylaws, didn't know anything about credit fraud, all this sort of stuff, right? We filled the property, super fun, but it was all ego when I first got started because I just thought I was pretty cool stuff to be able to own a property, right? Through about 6 months later, we bought another one. So together we owned 3. We're sort of handling them together. Then it got boring and I decided to start the novelty of owning properties wore off. And so I started putting money into the stock market until 2008, 2009, when I started losing a lot of money. And I decided, started to, we're not going to live forever. We don't want to work forever. I really have to look at our pension situation because we were starting to lose money. And as we started looking at the real estate properties, we were seeing, they weren't really appreciating in value, but they were getting mortgage pay down and they were getting a little bit of cash flow. So to me, and I understood it and I could insure it and I could control it. So there was all these things about it that made a lot of sense to me. So at the time we were moving from Milton back to Barrie because my husband at the time had taken a job in just outside of Barrie. So I thought, I don't have to work. I'm going to work on our pension. And I decided, at this time I'm going to really learn and I'm not going to fly by the seat of the pants like what we had been doing. So I went and educated myself and I just did any strategy that made sense for the market that was happening at the time. So everything from rent to own student properties, wholesaling, flips, BRRRRs. Now I'm into apartment buildings with partners, joint venture partners, all through all of that. But the intention initially was just to build our pension. And then I decided, I really like this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I loved inspiring others to not necessarily get into real estate investing, but understanding that you control your future, you control your destiny. And if you don't take action or if you just follow what everybody else does, you're just going to get what everybody else has. In order to create that dream, that destiny, you got to take some action. You got to go out and learn something. You've got to find what's going to work for you that's going to help you build whatever it is that you want out of life. And for me, it was building money. I get a huge high out of doing that. So that's sort of how I got started. And it's just sort of evolved from that. I really now try to not work too hard because I still treat it as joy and fun. And when it gets to a point where I'm like, I'm not enjoying this, I take a step back and I say, what is it? What about this am I not doing? And then I'll hire someone or get rid of that piece so that I am always, as much as possible, enjoying it. Because I find my momentum stays up when I'm enjoying what I'm doing. Can I always not do everything? No. I say it's like you should be enjoying about 80% of what you're doing. 20% is just a requirement, right?
That's actually like the first time I hear that. I think that's so cool that you're constantly reflecting on whether or not you're still enjoying what you're doing. And if you find that you're not, then you have to make a change. And that means delegating, hiring someone, doing something differently to make sure that this is still enjoyable. Because at the end of the day, if you're feeling burnt out and you have a bunch of problems that you're dealing with and this and that, it can easily lead to like trouble in your life and frustration and all these things, maybe sleepless nights, that type of thing. So I really like what you said. That's cool.
It defeats the purpose of getting involved in the first place, right? Because it's there to improve your life, not to deter it or make it worse, right?
Yeah.
And when you love it, I mean, every business that you get into, there's going to be downsides. There's like, if you think you're not going to make a mistake, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. But when you understand that, there's going to be pitfalls, and, the pitfalls that I was worried about 10 years ago, I laugh at today. And you just gain confidence. But if you love what you're doing, those pitfalls are, I want to say durable, like you can get through them, that sort of thing, right? But if you're not loving what you're doing, those pitfalls are going to take over, and you're better off to find someone who loves what they're doing and just stick to the piece that you love, because then you'll just keep going. And so what if you only have a bit of the pie, right? Like maybe you could have a bit of multiple pies, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You wanted to touch on mindset. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. Obviously, I think you offer coaching services, right?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
And I'm sure that's like one of the major things you have to deal with with your coaching clients. So why don't you tell us a little bit about mindset and what your thoughts are with regards to real estate investing?
Okay. Well, let me take you back as to where I first had my aha moment about mindset. Anyways, so early on, I probably had maybe 4 or 5 properties, and I went to an event where there were, I don't know, I want to say 400, 500 other investors downtown Toronto, or it wasn't downtown, it was in Toronto. And I'm going there thinking that I'm going to be the newbie, that, I'm going to learn from all these people. So I sit at a table, eager to meet everybody. I loved networking. That's my thing, like coffee, lunches, dinners. If people ask me what I do for a living, that's probably the number one thing I'm going to say. Yeah. Because it's all about learning what other people are doing. But anyways, that's a side note. So I'm sitting at this table and eagerly going around the table, asking people like, what do you do? How many properties do you have? What strategies are you using? And I went around the entire table. And with each person we asked, I'm like, these people have been coming to this event for some up to 2 years, and they maybe had 1 property, maybe 2. And I'm thinking, I'm the rock star at this table. What the heck is happening? And I was just like, I left there thinking, there's something off. There's something wrong. These people know what to do. They've been taught. They've taken multiple courses. They know what to do, but they can't pull the trigger. What is it that is causing them to not step out and take that leap of faith? And it comes to the way they think. When you hang out with people and you start discussing this stuff with people that don't believe in it and aren't, this isn't their way of life, like the traditional 9-to-5ers, which, for many of us is our own parents. It's the way we were raised in school. It's not our fault. It's just how the information that has been downloaded into us. Of course, it's very difficult. I'm not going to say impossible. It's very difficult to go against what you've learned your entire life. Be conservative, save money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Hard days pay for hard days work. All of that stuff is ingrained in us. And for me, I actually had the benefit of watching a kid just throw all of that downloading away, completely ignore it, and survive. So I knew that I could jump in and survive, right? But these people, if they're continuing to discuss this stuff and focus on what they've learned their entire lives, yes, it's an uphill battle to take that first step. And in fact, as I learned more information, I actually found it harder, because then I started learning all the things that could go wrong. Like naivety in the beginning is actually a wonderful thing, right? It's better to get in and tweak as you go than not get in and not learn anything, right? Yeah. My one thing is, if you're going to get in, make sure you can't get the market wrong. The one thing is, like, if you're buying real estate, you can't get the market wrong. If you're in the GTA, you're pretty safe, right? But so I started studying. I know I'm on all these different tangents. I started really studying, how do we think? And the way we think, how does it impact whether we'll take action or not? And what are we saying to ourselves every single day? And I think the other benefit that my brother had was that he didn't have the responsibility of children and a wife, and so he had freedom, right? So at the more you get under your belt, the more you're responsible for, the harder it is to step outside what you've been taught your entire life, because now you're responsible for other people. So, but there are strategies and things you can do, baby steps. And the number one thing I'd say is partner with even if you've got all the money, all the credit, partner with somebody that knows what they're doing. Just take that fear away for a very short period of time, learn through them, or hire a coach if you want to gain the 100%. But don't go it alone, and expose yourself to people that are doing this on a daily basis, that they eat, sleep. This is just normal for them. And the more you hang out with people like that, the more you're going to absorb their energy, the more you're going to absorb the way they think, the more you're going to start to get the results that they're getting. But if we continue to hang out with people that, 9-to-5ers, and some 9-to-5ers are fantastic, don't get me wrong. But there's a maximum that you're going to make. There just is.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a real estate agent, and I've had clients that I've spoken to because they've asked me questions about investing, knowing that I own some rentals, and I've heard so many stories from different people about how their friend had a bad experience and they're never going to invest again, and they had a rental property at one point and the tenant trashed it and this and that. But it's 100%. Like if you're going to talk to other people that have had these experiences that are amateur investors or that just had the one property, then you're just constantly going to reflect on the negative things that have happened. But when you talk to certain people that own multiple or dozens of properties and they've had a ton of issues, but they've worked through them, then it gives you a lot of confidence to go ahead and say, okay, this isn't such a big deal.
Exactly.
It's just a problem that I have to solve, and it's going to lead to really good things over time.
Yeah, I'm with you that when people talk about real estate, they talk about two things: home runs and disasters.
Yeah.
I would say 95% of it,
true.
The whole thing is so bloody boring.
Yeah.
It's so humdrum. I mean, it was so boring. I got out of it because I could watch the stock market. That was more entertaining to me. But you're so right that it depends on what you're listening to, right?
Yeah.
And for any problem out there, you should be building your network. For any problem that out there, there's someone out there that has experienced the same way or knows someone who's experienced that. And their advice, you may be only one phone call away from solving something or enduring something, and it's not a reason not to get involved.
Sure. And the other thing, I think sometimes people have issues because of their mindset. Like they maybe have trouble, create problems with their tenants, and that leads to bigger problems for them because the tenant might call the city, and then it might raise all these issues and cost them a lot of money instead of making the tenant happy, doing little things to make sure that you have a good relationship with your tenant. That can go a long way over time and help get rid of a lot of potential problems.
Yeah.
So like you said, it's a business, so you have to treat your tenants as your customers. You have to be good to them and have a good relationship, and that will make things a lot better over the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, one thing there very few people are designed to be good landlords, property managers.
Yeah.
It took me a few years to figure out I'm not one of those people. Just too much of a bleeding heart.
Yeah.
So if you're finding that the relationship between you and your tenants is causing you issues, like there's more problems than it's worth, you might look into getting property management.
Yeah, sure.
Your world becomes so much better. You're not on 24/7, right? And you just, all you need to do is start factoring in every time you buy a property, factor in the property management, right?
Yep.
It's not rocket science. And that would be the first thing I would let go of as an investor. I would say all new investors should do it for at least a year so that they get a feel of what the expectations are. But most of us are not good property managers.
Right.
We are not. And it's
true.
so nice to have somebody in between the two of you to say, I'm going to let me check with the owner so that the buck doesn't stop with the person that's talking, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's pressure. But if the buck it's easy to say, well, sorry, the landlord says no.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's probably the same thing if you're having issues with a tenant, not to necessarily deal with it directly with them, to hire a paralegal. I think having that buffer in a lot of ways has been really good.
Yeah. Especially if you've got a tenant that is a professional tenant, I would describe. But for the general stuff, I like my property manager to be doing the basic stuff, your N4s and your easy stuff. But when it gets more complicated,
or even cash for keys. Like for the longest time, I don't know why, when I was a little bit newer, I kind of got this impression that cash for keys, you always have to come up with a deal directly with the tenant, not realizing that I could hire a paralegal to do that for me, and they're going to be a lot better at doing it than I will. Like my experiences so far, I've had way more success through a paralegal who knows how to talk to them and how to work something out, and the results have been so much better that way. So that's one of the things I actually enjoy doing, is talking to tenants about cash for keys. So that's one I take on myself. Yeah. Oh, If you feel comfortable doing it and you're good at that and whatever. I just had like some tenants that were not motivated to leave, no reason. If you know that the energy between the two of you is off, always bring somebody else in. Always bring a third party. You'll save a lot more money, even if you have to pay for that third party. Yeah. It'll drag on if there's energy between the two of you. 100%. Emotional energy in particular, because as the owner, you have an emotional attachment to it. Your paralegal and your property management don't. Yeah, exactly. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because I had one situation where it took me, I went to not landlord-tenant board, but to Superior Court twice with a tenant. Wow. Bring in a property manager, there's no emotional energy anymore, and he had him out in 6 months, and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I? But it's part of the learning curve, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you tweak things as you go. You realize, okay, I'm good at this, so I can do it myself. I'm not so good at that. Let me delegate and hire somebody. I don't want to spend the time and energy on this, so absolutely, that makes sense. If we want to go back to mindset a little bit, so when you're working with somebody as a coach, what do you do to help transform their mindset? I listen to the way they speak. Probably when we have a conversation, I talk about, okay, well, what is top of mind? What's taking over your brain power right now? And we go through that situation, and I repeat back to them basically what they've said, and I get them to say, okay, what's wrong with this? And point out, because without fail, there's roadblocks that they have beliefs in their mind about, but are not necessarily true. So my job is to show them where their beliefs are off, and how they can go about changing that belief to open opportunities, see potential that they don't normally see. So you can't see me right now, but they're seeing here, and I want to show them that, you know what, really, this is available to you, but all you see is this. Right. And one of my number one things right now is, the market is just too hot. I can't buy anything. Yeah. Because you're looking here. Yeah. You got to change your strategy. Maybe you're looking into buying apartment buildings now because the competition is getting crazy, but maybe you have to step outside. Maybe you need to be getting on every wholesaler list you can possibly find. Maybe you need to be looking at calling realtors and seeing if they have any off-market deals. There's just, they're looking here, and the world is here, right? Sure. So I'm really trying to get them to listen to the language, because by the time they say it out loud, how many times have they said it in their head? And the more you think, a thought or a belief is just something you think repeatedly. Doesn't mean it's right. But it's been something that has been downloaded into you. And it's not their fault that they think the way they do. I mean, to the age of 6 or 7, the information that we get, we have no capacity to decide, yes, this is true, that's not true. So we're just absorbing everything that our parents have to share with us, our culture, our
media, whatever. And we don't decipher whether it's true. It's when you understand that you can control the way you think that you can start to say, I'm going to stop listening to these people because what they have to say, I'm not interested in how their world is shaping up.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer going to allow those people into my world, and I'm no longer going to give any value. So they're taking up precious energies because we only have so much energy in the day, right? And you start to really narrow down what you'll allow into your brain, because there's just so much negative energy out there, so many reasons to block and not do things, that I want the least amount of that, least amount of fight. I want the least amount of resistance to take action. So when I can control what I think and I can change my thought processes to, I know it sounds cliche, but be more positive instead of what could go wrong, what could go right, and have, for the things that could potentially go wrong, who do I have in my back pocket to call? Because that's really all I need. Who do I have in my back pocket to call if things go wrong? And do I have enough cash on reserves so I can sleep at night? Those are the two things I look for in anything that I am about to get into. And if the answer to both of those questions is yes, then I focus on what are the highest potential? What's my highest potential that I could do with this? And then I go and I take action. But when I'm talking to a client and I'm hearing this roadblock and this roadblock, I got to unwind those beliefs and get them to understand that isn't necessarily true. And how could we be looking at this differently? And by the way, who do you need to shut down and who do you need to add to your world so that this becomes easier for you? Because it's a fight for people. It's totally... The hardest, by far, the hardest thing I have ever done in my life is control the way I think. Buying real estate is nothing. Dealing with problems around real estate is nothing. It's when something goes wrong, the catastrophe that goes on in my head that rarely ever happens, that takes all of my energy. And it's controlling that has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to that thing you said about like an excuse that the market's too hot right now, there are no opportunities. If you're saying that to certain people, they're going to agree with you depending on who you're hanging out with. And it catches them off guard if somebody's challenging their thinking. It might be the first time that somebody challenges them and says, no, it's not too hot. There are opportunities. You just have to tweak this or change that or whatever. And I think, like you said, when you're growing up and you hear certain things from your parents, that can stick with you for a very, very long time. And it takes somebody to kind of shock you and say like, hey, this is the way you're thinking. I don't think this is going to serve you really well moving forward if this is your goal. And I think that's why having a coach or having certain friends can really impact you and change your mindset.
I if you were to do one thing and only one thing, I would be and I say this all the time, pay attention to the 6 people that you spend most of your time with. And if they're not above you in something achieving above you in something that you want, or at least at the same level, you need to consider decreasing the amount of time. I'm not saying kick them out of your life. I'm saying decrease the amount of time you spend with them and find people that are where you want to be, because you become the average of the 6 people you hang out with the most. So that to me is the easiest, and it's the most enjoyable, because you're hanging out with these people, you're having fun, and guess what you're talking about? Potential and things that could what you could do. And sooner or later you're doing stuff and it almost feels effortless. Yeah. It really does. And that is, you're in the flow, because that's really, when I talk about thinking and mindset, I'm really trying to get people out of resistance and into flow. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be a struggle. It can actually be easy and fun.
I agree with you. I think that's really important, obviously, to change who you're spending time with. But I think that's hard for a lot of people, because it's comfortable, being where they're at is comfortable. They've had these friends for a long time, whatever. So to like spend less time with them and have new friends now or new people that you're spending a lot of time with. And it's just a big change for a lot of people, I find, based on what I've seen.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It happens one conversation, one lunch, 2 lunches, 3 lunches.
Go to an event.
Yeah.
Something.
And it just... And it doesn't have to be your weekend time. It just, instead of watching Netflix, go to that real estate investing event. Yeah. Instead of, going out having beers with the boys. Yeah. Go to like a cash flow game night. Just get more exposure to the people that are doing what you want. And then find the people that you connect with and start building relationships. It could be going for lunch. I don't care what it is. It's just baby steps increase the amount of time and you're going to find, I look back and I love my high school friends dearly, but we don't all agree. Mm-hmm. And I still enjoy hanging out with them. It's just, we don't spend as much time as I spend with my colleagues, actually. Yeah. My colleagues have become my friends.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. So we've been diving in a little bit on, no, not a little bit, quite a bit on mindset. Is there anything else you feel like we should touch on before we move on to the next section?
Mm-hmm. No, I think we've covered a lot of what I'm really passionate about. And I if you started with mindset, you might be further ahead, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I just think one last thing I want to say, because like I had a coach last year. And I think at first I was resisting a lot to the things he was trying to get me to do. But after a while, you start doing these things and you realize, okay, life's changing. Like good things are happening. And I don't know why we just have this tendency to resist. And again, it's scary. Yeah, scary. It's comfortable.
Out of our norm, and we hate rocking the boat. Yeah. We will do more to protect money than we will to grow money. Yeah. Which is... crazy.
We want to stay comfortable. We don't want to do things. Yeah.
The worst position to be in is comfortable. Yeah. Those people that are rock solid bottom, there's only one way to go, up. Yeah. So they're willing to take more risks. Mm-hmm. If you're very comfortable, afraid of rocking the boat, your resistance is going to be higher. There's no question about that.
Yeah. And like you said, if you want to get uncomfortable, you don't have to do everything all at once. Just start with something. And just build some momentum and
get a coach.
Yeah.
Get a coach.
That's a big one.
Start there, or get a coach or hang out with people that are doing it on a regular basis.
Exactly. Okay, so let's go on to the next section, which is the random 5. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You just tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Oh. The first one is, what's one of your favorite smells? Scents, smells. Whatever.
Interesting. I love essential oils, and there is an essential oil by Young Living called Abundance, and I can't get enough of it. I'll take that abundantly.
Great. Okay, number 2. Who are some of your heroes?
They're changing all the time. Because I'm big into mindset, and this is just a new one for me. I haven't been able to listen to Eckhart Tolle I've been exposed to him for many years and just finally getting into him. In terms of real estate investing, I'm not loving who he is today, but totally grateful for being exposed to him would be Kiyosaki. Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think I would be where I am today without there was a lot of aha moments in 2006 when I started reading his books. Yeah. And then just strong women like Gabrielle Bernstein, Oprah. Yeah. The woman that wrote Lean In, her name Cheryl somebody. I can't remember, but I don't know. There's a few. Yeah. Those are the strong women. I just nothing against men. Mm-hmm. It's just, there's not enough of them out there.
Yeah. That makes, especially in something like real estate investing. You
Yes.
don't normally
Yeah,
see as many. Yeah.
We are still a minority.
Yeah. But there are some really like powerful investors that are in the GTA in this area. And that's really cool to see.
Yes.
Number 3, what was your best birthday?
My best birthday was probably my 40th, where I was surprised for a dinner out with all my friends. So that was really nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Number 4, do you ever sing when you're alone, and what song?
Oh my God, I laughed so hard because I was just in the car doing that. Right now, the song is called Run by One Republic, and I'm in love with it. And so the answer is 100% yes. And I car karaoke with the kids all the time, and the songs are usually from, oh my God, the circus, The Greatest Showman.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen, that's a movie, right?
Yeah, it's fabulous.
I haven't seen that, but I know what you're talking about. Okay, and the final question, what would you do on a free afternoon in the middle of the week?
Every day's a free afternoon in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
Seriously, every day.
At this point, yeah.
So I'm typically out walking, yoga, going for lunch with somebody, in the summer paddleboarding, running errands. I set my day the way I want my day to be set. I've hit that point where I really try not to work more than 15 to 20 hours a week, and can try to continue to love what I'm doing. So, those are the fun things I would be doing.
Awesome. That's why you're the millionaire mom.
Trading is the other thing. I'm learning how to trade, and it's becoming fun for me. And I just learned something yesterday, and this morning I was like, oh my God, I got to go. Like, I know I'm in love with something when I lose track of time.
Yeah. I'm learning how to trade too. I just started recently. So, it's a cool thing to explore, and just another avenue to generate some income.
Yeah. You know what? Do the real estate, but remember that there's so many other ways out there to build money, build equity. And so if you've got one thing under your belt, then it's time to start a new one.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, so how do people reach you, and what services do you provide?
Excellent. They can reach me at off my website at millionairemom.ca.
Mm-hmm.
They can reach me on Instagram at millionaire_mom_enterprises, or Facebook at millionaire mom. I offer coaching, one-on-one, a lot about mindset. We probably do. We pick one strategy that you want to attack, and I probably spend 60% of my time on your mindset. I will require that we start with bringing in joint venture, raising capital, bringing in joint venture. I don't care if you've got all the money in the world. Sooner or later, you're going to get shut down. So if I don't teach you how to do that, then you're only going to be able to go so far. So we spend time on raising money. And then I offer a online course, just learning the basics. It's 10 sessions. Just learning the basics on what you need to know before you buy your first property. So kind of all the stuff that I lucked out in when I bought my first property, that they all worked in my favor, but I would never do that now. These are the things you need to know that you can't tweak once you've bought the property. Yeah. So it's just that information, and everything from there, I believe you can tweak. I mean, I've changed property managers, I've changed lawyers, I've improved houses, I've got rid of tenants. Like, you can tweak just about everything else. It's once you buy the property, it's hard to, you can sell the property, but that's harder.
Yeah.
More costly.
Yeah, I think a lot of us got lucky with our first couple or first rental properties. So it does take a little bit of luck, but definitely understanding some fundamentals and certain things can really help you. And having an experienced coach walk you through it will make a huge difference. So that's great.
And the other thing I'm doing is I have different things to invest in. So there's opportunities there as well to understand what they are and that sort of thing.
Awesome. Okay, Susan, that wraps things up here. I appreciate you coming by, and it was great chatting with you. And thank you for sharing all that stuff on mindset. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Well Off Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, then I'd really appreciate if you left us a review on iTunes and let us know your thoughts. In order for us to get a larger audience, it's really important to have reviews, so your support is extremely appreciated. And also, don't forget to share the podcast with your friends and family. Until next time, I'm George Almasri. Have a great day.